all are aware by the title of this video, by Ben Jacobs. Some big Manchester United updates. We're talking Baleba, Sesko, Garnacho exits as well, plus anything else you want to speak about. Get your comments in, your member chats, your super chats. But before we go any further, like the video right now. Just get it liked. Get yourself subscribing if you haven't done so already. But Ben, how are you, mate?
Everything is good. The lateness was my fault. I was doing my Gimme Sport Market Madness podcast, but I've saved all the juicy Man United news for you.
Love that. I didn't actually tell. I'm working with Ben tomorrow on the Football Terrace. I didn't tell Ben I was hosting today, actually. So I hope it's a pleasant surprise.
Seeing you almost every day during this window, always a pleasure.
I know it's been crazy. Look, we're going to talk Baleba. We're going to talk Garnacho, but I did want to start with the situation with Benjamin Sesko, because you exclusively revealed on Tuesday night at around 12:30 that he has committed himself and said he wants to join United as a priority. How close is this deal now to a kind of the Jacobs cracker, the bomber, the here we go, the full agreement?
I mean, I don't deal in catchphrases for rubber stamping deals, but I understand why people like you use them. The only thing that's ever official or definitive is when your club posts and they hold up the shirt, because there could be twists and turns, of course, in any deal, even after a medical. But where we're at is that Manchester United have got full buy-in. And as you say, I revealed on that evening that Benjamin Sesko had not just indicated or lent towards Manchester United, but he'd actually informed both clubs he wants to join Manchester United. Terms in place on a 5-year deal. And now Manchester United are making progress towards an agreement in principle. Obviously, we're live at the moment, and I did make some calls this morning. As of this morning, my understanding is that an agreement in principle was relatively close between the clubs. And part of the reason for that is because when Manchester United bid, they didn't come in low like with Mbumo. They met the fixed fee asking price of 75 million euros. So the valuation is fine on Manchester United's bid. No problem with the total amount. It just comes down to structure. That's what they're working on. And an agreement in principle is expected. And naturally, Newcastle are still there in the sense they've left their accepted bid on the table. They've got a delegate still in Germany, but they're well aware that Benjamin Sesko only wants Manchester United. And Manchester United's total valuation is exactly the same as Newcastle United. So in hindsight, I can reveal this 90 million number that was pushed by German sources. You may remember my reporting was just 80 million and add-ons. But this 90 million number was pushed by Leipzig the day before Manchester United bid, and it was inflated. And actually, Newcastle United's accepted offer is 82.5 million euros and 2.5 million in add-ons. They went down the line of going above the fixed fee that Leipzig wanted with a preferable structure and almost no add-ons. So virtually all the money is guaranteed. It was accepted, but it was never 90 million. But why was it pushed at 90 million from Leipzig sources on the night before Manchester United bid? Because maybe they would have gone higher. And actually, Manchester United were quite smart because their intel said the magic number is in and around 85 million euros. Now it's just about working on the structure, because obviously there's a big difference between 82.5 million fixed and 75 million fixed. So they might have to go up a little bit in terms of the fixed fee, but they're not far off. So barring anything crazy and unexpected, my expectation is that an agreement in principle is relatively imminent and could come at some point this week.
Was Sesko ever really open to Newcastle, or as per the reports, was it always United that were leading in terms of the player's preference?
Well, I think we get a bit of rewriting in any transfer, because wherever a player goes, suddenly you hear they only wanted one club and it was always their first choice. And you have to say that I don't think it was ever as clear cut as rejecting Newcastle and accepting Manchester United. I think it was about two different projects, but it was also an understanding, are Manchester United going to bid? So the reluctance on the Sesko side to do what Mbumo did and say, this is my top club, all the other clubs may as well back off because I'm going to wait for the club. You can do that early in the window, and if you get a clear indication that this club is going to fight for you. But obviously the complication was Newcastle was so aggressive that Sesko didn't know until about 7 days ago, I'm told, that Manchester United would come in that high. And I think even Manchester United fans, when they heard the 90 million euros number that actually was 85, some of them may have gone, we should be walking away. if this is 90 million euros, or our club might want the player, but how are we going to get to that 90 million euros package? And even Sesko, I think 7 days ago, had some reservations. Are Man United actually going to bid? In addition to that, you have the long-term Manchester United project with no European football. You have a great wage because the wage bill of Manchester United is bigger than Newcastle. You have the Ruben Amorim factor. I'm told he spoke several times directly to the player. You have the relationship between Mbeumo, Cunha, Bruno Fernandes and Sesko, and just the fact that Amorim has been pushing, in fact, hammering home that Sesko is the right fit. So regardless of the proven Premier League experience of Watkins, and that was also his suggestion, if we're not going to get Sesko, let's sign a goal scorer that can just immediately click in the Premier League. And then Christopher Vivell listened to all the different arguments and said he thinks Sesko is the one to go for. And I think the player was sold on the project. And part of that was also because 12 months ago, Manchester United were pitching to Sesko as well. So you get a bit of a head start because actually you're doing the legwork now. And I think we'll come on to this when we talk about Carlos Baleba as well. If Manchester United don't get him now, should they return in a year's time, they'll have done a bit of pitching. They'll have done a bit of project work. And that can give you an advantage. Whereas Newcastle are ultimately a bit of a newer suitor in all of this, in a serious sense anyway. On the Newcastle side, we have to be fair. They've got a massive fan base, a brilliant club. They won a trophy last season. In addition, they've got Champions League football. The wage was competitive. So I don't think Sesko was ever going to reject both and stay at Leipzig. But what's been abundantly clear for about a week, and what was specifically communicated to both clubs when I broke the story, is that Sesko has picked Manchester United, and that's why a deal is expected to get done.
And I do want to say as well, I know we'll get into Baleba in a moment. We've got a few super chats first, but I just wanted to say here on the United Stand, not just the biggest Man United community in the world, the biggest fan channel community in the world, a big congratulations to you, Ben, on a professional level this year. And it's the Baleba news, which we'll get into. You told everyone to keep an eye out for that. The Sesko news, this is well in sort of June time. You started talking about this. Even in Mbeumo, I remember when United's name was lightly being linked. I remember doing shows. In fact, that night I did my top 6 show on the Football Terrace, and everyone on that panel laughed at the idea. And I said, well, no, Ben Jacobs today on the United Stand said, keep an eye out for Mbeumo to Man United. So there's been 2 or 3, maybe 4 this summer in the United space that you have got very early on, a lot of exclusives on. So I just wanted to say a big well done to you and hand you your flowers, mate.
I mean, I appreciate that. You can send the flowers in the post, but my feeling with this sort of thing, and the words are so kind, and I get a lot of messages from Manchester United fans, but the footballers and the transfers are the stories, not the journalists, which is what I mean about the whole catchphrase thing. It's a bit of fun. And by the way, Fabrizio Romano can do that because he's Fabrizio goddamn Romano, and he's one of the best in the business. So of course he gets a catchphrase because that is seen as a rubber stamp that's on a par with almost saying something is official. But he's built a following over many more years than me. He's got billions of followers probably across all of his social platforms. So if one man in the whole world is allowed a catchphrase, it's that man, and how amazing he does window on window. But for me as a journalist working for mainstream media outlets, I appreciate the praise, of course, but I like the transfers and the story to remain separate from the kind of individual journalist. It's just my style of how I present it, because if I sort of put myself into the story too much, I think I'm taking away a little bit from what's actually happening and who's sort of going where. But certainly your words are very kind and appreciated.
Humble as well, ladies and gentlemen. Get the like button hit. Make sure you're... I do get you're not going to start signing off tweets with, and it's another Jacobs cracker. Yeah, don't start doing that. I think it's fun that fans reply with that more so than you doing it. I absolutely concur. We have a super chat here from Adrian C that says a private jet is scheduled to leave Leipzig for Manchester at 4 p.m. UK time. iTop X is I think that must be the reference number, is the plane to track. This wasn't showing earlier. Firstly, can I just say, Adrian, that is dedication to your club. knowing all of that is amazing. And look, it could be any number of things. There are business people that fly around the world and everything else, but it could be. We'll see. We'll see with that one.
Put it this way. loads of people DM me with planes, and I don't think I've ever once tracked a plane. Even when Arsenal fans were DMing me a listed house, Newcastle ones as well for Alexander Isak. And I remember when everyone thought Yuri Tielemans was going to Arsenal, and that was the direction of travel, by the way, even I reported it. Somebody sent me a link on rightmove.com, and it was Tielemans' house in Leicester, and they'd zoomed in to his kitchen fridge to confirm a family photo. So occasionally you can get a little nugget from a plane or a listing, but ultimately it could be a delegation traveling out. They might be leaving empty-handed. They might be bringing Sesko back on the plane. I don't know at this point, but the main thing is club-to-club agreement. And I come back to what I said before, that there could be a bit of games. There could be a bit of Leipzig saying in the next day or two, we've accepted the Newcastle one. You've not matched it. We're going to try and force him to Newcastle. But the biggest thing in everything is one clear thing, and that is Benjamin Sesko is waiting for Manchester United. Leipzig know that, and that's why I still expect the deal to get done.
Javier Hernandez here, not the Javier Hernandez, says no crumbs, just Jacobs. That's really cool. I like that. It's a great catchphrase. Slow Sports News here with another super chat says, early in the window, I heard through the grapevine that Arsenal wanted Sesko. Why did they not? Why did they stop their pursuit and go for Gyökeres?
Some of it's down to Andrea Berta. It's a great question. And also the fact that the price never dropped for Arsenal. So this notion that there's a special, in inverted commas, price for Sesko if he picked a club was never the case for Arsenal. And from what I understand, Benjamin Sesko wanted Arsenal earlier in the window. And even if you construe 85 million euros as a so-called special price, don't forget, Benjamin Sesko's had a release clause of 83 million euros. So the special price is still above the release clause. It's nowhere near 70 million euros. So it might be down from 100. It might be on better terms than the release clause, but it's more expensive than Benjamin Sesko's release clause. And I think Arsenal in negotiating, as I reported many times, including on your own Done Deal show, Arsenal wanted either Victor Gyökeres or Benjamin Sesko for around 70 million. So they explored both concurrently. And then Andrea Berta pushed more for Victor Gyökeres. Edu, Jason Atu, and Mikel Arteta, historically before his arrival, were more inclined to go for Sesko. But in the end, I think it was one of those marginal decisions where Arsenal were actually happy signing either. One player was 63.5 million with 10 million and add-ons in Gyökeres, and the other was ultimately more expensive than that, and Arsenal couldn't get the price down. So I think cost was one reason why Arsenal backed off, and Andrea Berta is the other.
Thank you very much for that update there, Ben. Moving on from Sesko, of course, the news dropped last night. First of all, and I don't know how aware you are of Indy, the account Indy. This was an account 10 years ago when all sort of fan social media started. It was just a troll account that used to put out the most outrageous transfer stories. But whether it's been taken over by somebody or whether he or she has developed actual contacts over the years is crazy. But to see the great David Ornstein actually credit him for that update last night was crazy. But United fans have been trying to, we've all been holding ourselves back from sort of getting into sort of fits of hysteria and excitement about the prospect of Carlos Baleba. You revealed on the United stand about 3 or 4 weeks ago that this was a possible signing, but very difficult. This news has got everybody excited and whetted the appetite. What's the latest surrounding this, and how likely are United to get this done, considering it's gone so public now through the likes of yourself, Fabrizio, and of course David Ornstein?
Yeah, just on Indy, first of all, like with any account, if they break a story and it's accurate, you have to put some respect on that. And I don't think we as journalists go in to any story and assume that somebody's information is incorrect or unreliable. And if you see it and they beat you to it, regardless of previous track record historically, you have to acknowledge that. So fair play to David Ornstein, because when somebody beats him to a story, which happens once in a blue moon, he credits them. And that's the nature of the man and the incredible journalist that he is. And I think it's really fun this window that stories have come from lots of different places. And some accounts are able to gain followings and really grow because people realize maybe they do have certain information for certain clubs. And that's the fun of the window, isn't it? We ultimately engage, we enjoy it, we debate it. And from a journalistic point of view, we're as accurate as we possibly can, and we're accountable. And this is why we come on shows like this, because it gives fans the opportunity to comment and to ask questions. And if they feel fit, call us out. And rightly, we respond to that. We come on camera, we show our faces, we publish our work. We're not going to get everything right. So I love it, because this is how the window should work. And whether you're big, whether you're small, whether you're known, whether you're unknown, if your information is right, it 100% deserves credit. Regarding Baleba, I'm surprised there's not a hashtag "Don't Stop Believing" that is trending already, because Manchester United fans are praying this comes off now. And this was a story, as you say, that I broke a few weeks ago, that Manchester United were interested in the Brighton player and had made an approach. It's via intermediaries, it's early stages, and Brighton's position is very clear that they don't want to sell. Brentford don't want to sell Johan Wissa. Newcastle don't want to sell Alexander Isak. Not for sale doesn't always mean not for sale. But if not for sale becomes a sale now, it's going to be a very high price. So we have to understand if Manchester United can actually progress now financially, because this is not off the back of Benjamin Sesko, if it happens, the kind of deal that can be done on Manchester United's terms, or even could be done with a few outgoings. This is a significant fee. I know we've heard reports out there of 70, 80, 90, 100 million. I personally don't have a specific fee. And the reason for that is because I've never dealt with a single Brighton source that has ever disclosed an asking price. They didn't do it for João Pedro. They definitely didn't do it publicly, or even to Chelsea for Moises Caicedo. So be wary on hearing a number simply because there are no Brighton sources out there that tell you a number. But behind the scenes, they will have this is a figure we cannot turn down, whether that's now or whether that is in a year's time. So Manchester United need to decide whether they want to bid blind with potentially player buy-in. The other danger with this kind of deal is if the market suddenly thinks that Baleba is available, other suitors could come forwards as well. But my info is the same as I reported 2 United stands ago, that the expectation from Brighton, it is their club position, to my knowledge, even as of this morning, they are intending, not hoping, intending to keep Baleba for at least 1 more year. And this may only become a story in 12 months' time, barring an astronomical bid. And that's where Manchester United need to determine, have they got the leeway within PSR at the beginning, albeit of a new financial year? Have they got the outgoings? Have they got the wage space? So if, for example, Casemiro's wage came off the books, Garnacho was sold for 50 million or 60 million instead of 35 or 45 million, if they get a fee for Anthony instead of a loan, if they can get 25 million for Jadon Sancho instead of the current price being quoted to clubs like Juventus and Dortmund of 17 million, if everything aligned, including some space on the wage bill, is there a possibility? Well, obviously, they wouldn't have held the meeting with the intermediaries unless they at least considered it. But Brighton's position is very clear. It's very firm at the moment. And I sense, barring a massive bid, which is not impossible, but it's not necessarily the likeliest scenario from Manchester United's perspective. So we might still be talking about this kind of deal in 12 months' time.
Which all makes sense. Could it help Man United's case? Because there were some new reports this morning that Brighton will offer him a new deal. It said that he's on around 12,000 a week, which is amazing money to people like yourself and I. But in a footballing context, if you're valuing him at 100 million, paying him 12k a week is small. If United were able to turn his head somewhat and make him want to leave, could that help United's stance? Or with Brighton being notorious negotiators, could that actually hurt our stance if we kind of get the player on board and make him push first? What way around do you see that working for United?
You've got to protect the club-to-club relationship to an extent. So the best example is Moises Caicedo. In January, Arsenal and Chelsea bid. Caicedo issued a statement saying it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and Brighton said no, and he stayed. And then they obviously sold him in the subsequent summer to Chelsea. So the read, if club-to-club talks direct start between Manchester United's negotiators and Brighton, is going to be the first point here. Because if they feel that they're wasting their time, if they're damaging the club-to-club relationship when they want to return, at another point in time, then sometimes clubs just walk away, and it's not giving up. It's actually bracing yourself and preparing yourself to make a more viable bid somewhere further down the line. So Chelsea's read of Caicedo in January, even with his public statement, was we're going to come back in summer. And if we do that, we'll stand a better chance and we'll still have the player pushing to leave. And that's exactly what happened. Arsenal tried with a higher bid. Caicedo released his statement specifically in relation to the Arsenal bid, but he didn't get the move to Arsenal. And Chelsea's tactic was actually better to back off. So this is where the relationship between Manchester United and particularly Paul Barber, who's so influential within Brighton, Tony Bloom will look at data. Tony Bloom will obviously consult with Barber, but it's Paul Barber who's really the main man in the room. So his perspective is going to be key to all of this. And we don't know it categorically yet. But what I would say is that last night, Paul Barber did a fans forum and is on record as saying nobody yet has approached him directly. So that's why this saga, if it turns into one, is at the very early stages. And either Manchester United are going to have to be highly ambitious and try and turn the player's head with a big wage, as you say, or alternatively, they're going to have to be patient. And maybe time will be taken away from Manchester United, because as you also allude to, there could be a scenario where Brentford give him increased terms on the premise that he does one more year and then still allow him to leave. And that's maybe the difference between the Mbumo saga, the Wissa saga, because Brentford really were fighting to keep these players, whereas I think there's an acknowledgement within Brighton, even in that season where they qualified for European football, that they are in essence a selling club. Yeah. So players don't feel trapped at Brighton. They feel respected. They often feel loyal. And when the right time comes, they know they're going to get their move. And that was what made the Caicedo situation so atypical, because it was the one example where there was a bit of acrimony between Brighton and Caicedo. But 9 times out of 10, Brighton do make a sale. They do so on their terms. And at the moment, anyway, their terms are they want to keep the player for another year.
And it makes sense to maintain a good relationship because, look, Arsenal are very happy with their midfield, but we can see how good Caicedo is. They wanted to buy him. Maybe if their approach was a little more respectful from a Brighton perspective. And I think as fans, we have this habit sometimes of just saying, go get it done. Just get it done. Pay what it takes. Do whatever is needed. But if it doesn't work out and then you damage a relationship, somebody else, as you say, could sweep in the next window. You also don't know the next star that a Brighton might unearth that you haven't seen that you want to buy. And if by then your relationship's damaged, it might be, again, a harder sort of process to go through. And it might stop you from being able to do it. We know famously as United fans, there were certain agents, for instance, and players that could never get a move to Man United because of the relationship with Fergie, and Fergie wouldn't have it. And I'm sure this exists. I'm sure there are clubs that Tony Bloom doesn't want to deal with, or sporting directors that he looks at and thinks, I'm not going to do them a favor if I can help it. But I have a great relationship with these 3 or 4 clubs, great respectful people. And I think as fans, we're all very insular in the sense of we have our own club at the front and center of everything, and we don't spend enough time looking from the outside in and looking at other people's perspectives on the right way to approach it. And I do agree. I would rather wait till the summer and get him than push too hard in January or next summer, then push too hard now and never get him, because I think as you alluded to on other shows, this is a dream move for Amorim, a dream move for Manchester United. And whether we get it now or next summer, that's still brilliant. Not getting him, that's a bigger problem to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about a tactic. It's about understanding the Brighton position. There's been no direct club-to-club talks yet, but if that develops, there's obviously some confidence that something could happen, even if it's at a massive price. So I think that's what Manchester United are starting to understand at the moment. Just a bit of breaking news as well, Terry, for you, kind of Manchester United related. The Ballon d'Or nominees have just come out. And Scott McTominay is on this, which is a phenomenal achievement by him.
Look, I understood why he went. Hindsight's lucrative. I look back now and I wish he stayed. But it's fantastic that he's been nominated. It's great to see his name on there, and I hope he does well. I mean, I don't think he'll he'll win it. But it's absolutely amazing to see him on it. And I know every single United fan, 20-odd thousand tuning into this show live right now. I just want to say this is the biggest audience I've ever streamed to in my whole life. So thank you all for being here. I know it isn't for me, it's for Ben and the United stand. But thank you.
I don't know about that. I think
a couple. I think my son might be watching in the other room. Big up Jackson and Archie. But yeah, that's great for Scott. It's great for Scotty. I'm really, really happy for him. So yeah, big up to him. There's a super chat that came in from Tyler, and it says here: once Garnacho is sold, and I know we'll get onto that story a bit later, would we need to sell more to raise the funds for Baleba?
Well, again, people are asking about the funds for Baleba. They won't know what that number is. And if it's astronomical, you're not raising funds for anything. You might be selling and saving those funds to use them in 12 months' time. So I don't have a number for Baleba. I appreciate other people have put a figure on it, but my understanding is that there is no price at this stage. And unless we get a formal approach or a bid, we might not really understand whether Manchester United's valuation for the player is anywhere near what Brighton and Hove Albion might be looking for. But these outgoings are more important because of the feeling now within Manchester United and the wider industry that post Benjamin Sesko, assuming they get to that agreement in principle, there are going to have to be players out the door, with Garnacho being the most important one because it represents pure profit on the books, and then obviously resolving the futures of the others. And I think there are two things at play here that are very different. One is PSR. Manchester United feel PSR compliant for 2024-2025. Then you're thinking about your PSR headroom for 2025-2026. But as important is this determination over clearing some space in your wage bill, because that's a lingering cost over a lot longer. If you sign Baleba, Benjamin Sesko's contract is 5 years. So that's a committed wage over a lot longer than just an annual PSR cycle. And sometimes people forget that. So it'd be a big win, and it would give Manchester United a lot more headroom to make signings if Casemiro left the club. But at the moment, we don't have any indication that's going to happen in the next few weeks. So they're going to have to make some big calls. I think midfield is now the main priority, perhaps even more so than goalkeeper, even though a lot of fans would like a number one. And as I've said many times, Sané Larmans as a young number two is also possible. But for me, this is about Manchester United overextending and buying before they sell, which is fine because you've entered into a new financial year. You've got plenty of time. The outgoings could come January. They could come in the early part of next summer as well. So there's no panic within Manchester United. But in essence, come the end of this financial year, everyone coming in needs to be offset by an outgoing, and that Sesko fee needs to be balanced by somebody like Garnacho, Jadon Sancho, Anthony joining Marcus Rashford out the door. And this is why I think Manchester United are in actually quite a challenging position, because you would think, can't we just sell players that want to go in a surplus to requirements? But if you're Chelsea for Garnacho, you know that Manchester United now need to sell. So you're going to be low balling and saying late in the window, this is the offer, take it or leave it. If you leave it, then you're going to be sweating heading into January and next summer. And that's where we stand at the moment. I don't think these are funds for Baleba. I think these are actually funds to offset the imminent arrival of Benjamin Sesko, assuming that deal gets over the line.
If, for instance, Baleba can't happen, which is a very big possibility, who else might United go for? There's a super chat from Cause who says, surely there's an alternative to Baleba. Could it be a Wharton? Could it be a Hackney? Could it be the sporting midfielder? I think it's pronounced, is it
Hewland? Yeah.
Hewland. Could it be one of these players that we pivot to? Because surely, if Man United inquired, the one thing I would assume here is we're not being run by idiots anymore. We must know that it's going to cost 85+ million, even to inquire. United didn't inquire and hoping, oh, maybe they'll tell us it's 40 million. So surely that means there must be a decent amount of money that United think we're going to have. And if so, who could these alternatives be, Ben?
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? That Baleba's not going to be 20, 30, 40 million in likelihood, even though we don't have a price from Brighton. And as a consequence, if they're exploring it, it's either legwork to see if anything's possible, or they are prepared to make that kind of budget, which might mean that we do get a midfield outgoing, or they do get Casemiro's wage off the books. Although at this stage, I don't know of any suitors. We've heard Saudi for so long, and yet this summer, as of now anyway, Casemiro doesn't have a Saudi offer, although Manchester United would obviously give that due consideration. I've mentioned Wilfred Ndidi before. He's doing a medical as we speak at Besiktas. Let's see whether that deal gets formalized. Sometimes in the world of transfers, you fly over and suddenly all of the other offers come out of the woodwork. I broke exclusively Valencia, for example, trying to agree a fee with Leicester, but it got rejected. So I think they're out of the race at the moment. Frank Onyeka was discussed as a squad player, but not necessarily seen as up to scratch or enough of an engine in the centre of the park. So I think there's two considerations here. Do they go big on somebody that's the future of Manchester United, overextend and try and balance the books? Or do they go economical and find a stopgap and then ultimately revisit? And fans might be underwhelmed by the suggestion of some of the names for Manchester United in central midfield that have been reported. But if they're only going to be there for a year or two, they're experienced, they're squad players, and you're biding your time for someone like Baleba, that's a very decent strategy. And a lot of clubs will do that as well. So that's kind of the decision here. Do they on the one extreme go for somebody young and maybe still ready to play now and can give you 5 to 7 years? Or do they go for someone really experienced and economical just to fill the kind of void and maybe trade that person? And I look at, for example, Arsenal and how they added Norgard, and it wasn't really celebrated by the fan base in the same way that Zubimendi was. And yet by the same token, you think he'll fill a gap. Jorginho was the same. He'll do great. He'll add to your squad. He'll give you depth. He'll rarely let you down. And then from there, you wait until such time when you can actually bring in your number one target. So I think this is an internal consideration at the moment by Manchester United. Yeah. Is there a midfielder we can just do and wants to come and is not going to break the bank, and then you've got an extra body in? Or are we going to go all in? And what they've shown with Sesko, they've shown with Mbeumo, they've shown with Cunha, is even with tight PSR headroom, when they really want a player that's the long-term future of Manchester United, they're finding a way to get more and more and more budget. At some point, it will all rack up, and they're definitely going to be in a challenging financial situation if they don't get these outgoings out the door. But I think that's the level of ambition at the moment at the football club. And you have to say, if they get a box office midfielder along with Sesko, plus Cunha and Mbeumo, given their financial situation, that's an outstanding window for Manchester United.
It certainly is. And of course, goalkeeper is another area. And just as we were live, the Here We Go has dropped from Fabrizio for Lucas. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. The Lille goalkeeper has joined Chevalier. He's joined Paris Saint-Germain from Lille for around 40 million euros. There is, of course, big speculation about Gigi Donnarumma. Could he be on his way out? United have been linked to him. There's, of course, the young keeper as well that we've been linked to. Lemons. What? United still looking at a goalkeeper? Is that something else you could see us pursuing in the next sort of 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's possible. Obviously, the number 2 is in light of Altay Bayindir, and if he stays, then that becomes less urgent. And the number 1 is in the context of Andre Onana, and I'm repeating myself here a little bit, but understandably, people may not have heard the earlier updates. Nothing has changed on the goalkeeper front. So Andre Onana has not been told face-to-face or indirectly that he's surplus to requirements. His expectation is he's the number 1 for the full season. If they stick to that plan, they're either looking for no goalkeeper or a young number 2. And that's where, as I exclusively broke with colleague Alex Crook, Sene Laarmans at Royal Antwerp is one of the names on the list. And there have been some talks last week on the player side and club to club as well. And if Bayindir stays, there's even a scenario where they say to Antwerp, we'll pre-agree it or we'll loan him back to you, and then he'll come in a year's time. Because if Bayindir stays, then Sene Laarmans might be better suited continuing at Antwerp or even being sent on loan somewhere else. So this is an internal conversation at the moment. It's not urgent until Bayindir finds another club regarding the young number 2, and nobody else is sort of hijacking that Sene Laarmans deal. With the number 1, it's difficult to report because the facts are Onana hasn't been told he's not the number 1, and Manchester United's long-term strategy is they always wanted a young number 2. And yet the part that makes it complicated as a reporter is we also know they definitely made a loan offer for Emi Martinez, and they definitely know that a permanent deal for Emi Martinez is £40 million. Added to the fact that Emi Martinez has been courting Manchester United all summer, even though Villa fans don't like to hear that. And you have a situation where it's maybe a little bit open. Regarding Donnarumma, because that was your question about Chevalier joining, that's an open situation. So Donnarumma is not going to get a new deal at PSG. That's my understanding. It's not because they don't rate him. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. It's the fact they've got in this young keeper, and Donnarumma's wage demands mean that PSG are not going to match what he wants. So it is going to suit all parties to leave. And that's either going to be Donnarumma staying another year and then departing, or going now. He's got 1 year left on his contract. If you look at Chelsea's pursuit of Mike Maignan, Maignan had a year left and Chelsea were told 25 million. My understanding from PSG sources is that the number has to be in excess of £30 million and maybe even as high as 40 million, because they're taking Donnarumma's age, only 26, his form last season and his role in them winning the Champions League, coupled with the fact that if Maignan is older and 25 million with a year left, Donnarumma should be 5 million minimum more, maybe even up to 15. I sense the top end of that PSG price might drop because it might be in all interests for Donnarumma to leave. The Manchester United talks that have been reported, and the same for Galatasaray, have been downplayed. I'm not saying something won't develop later in the window, but any suggestion that Manchester United are already on it, they're already bidding, not true to my understanding as of now. But I do think keep an eye generally on Donnarumma, because although the player's position is he's content to stay, I think there'll be suitors. Whether or not that's Manchester United, let's wait and see, because there's nothing yet. But I do think we're going to hear a lot of speculation and maybe some concrete bids for Donnarumma as the next 4 weeks progress.
Yeah, it feels that way too. Just kind of, as you say, has that feeling. A lot of things being said, but are they the reality? We will see. Viewers, get that like button hit if you haven't done so yet. 20,000 of you tuning in. So this video should be getting 10,000 likes easy. Go for the 50% margin. Get that done, please. Really important to the platform that you do that. Some super chats here that we haven't been through yet. Sambit said, is there any chance United go in for any goalkeeper? Well, I think Ben's just given a very conclusive and detailed update on that. Sambit, so thank you for your super chat. Johnny here, Johnny with a super chat says, can you ask Ben about Sesko's wages and if either team offered more? We obviously have seen those stories that Newcastle offered a higher salary. Is that something that you've also been informed of, Ben?
Well, Newcastle certainly upped their offer to Benjamin Sesko in the 24 hours before Manchester United made a bid. I think both were relatively like for like, though, in terms of package. I'm not told that Sesko went above 200,000 a week by any club. I think it was closer, perhaps even to 150,000. And naturally, these terms are incentive driven at both clubs. Manchester United always, across the board, it was an issue with Ronaldo just before he left, have roughly a 20% reduction in seasons where they don't have Champions League football. So the offer now by Manchester United to Sesko is without Champions League football, but can go up by 20%. And similarly, Newcastle United's offer is with Champions League football, but can go down in seasons where they don't get Champions League football. So people want a simple answer, who offered more? There isn't one, because if he was playing for Newcastle United next season, he'd be earning more than at Manchester United because they got Champions League football. But if that flips and Man United get Champions League football, then I actually think his Manchester United wage will be higher than the one on offer to Newcastle United. But there wasn't a great deal of difference between the finances. Newcastle just chucked in a higher base because they had Champions League football, but not so much higher. There was much difference. And then offered a bunch of incentive-driven bonuses where if he hit personal goals, he would earn a lot more money, which was quite smart because then the total package looks quite lucrative. Manchester United's offer, I'm told, puts Benjamin Sesko in the top 7 or 10 best paid players at the club. We're not talking 250,000, 300,000 and so on, but it's well paid and compensated for a player that will assume, should he join as expected, he'll be the main man at this football club, but he's also young. So I think Manchester United's offer isn't really breaking the bank on the wage side. And like I said before, when you actually analyse the specifics and the finesse of why the offers were made and how the offers were structured, it's not really worth getting sucked into Newcastle versus Manchester United, because one is more incentive driven on the Newcastle side and is higher because they've got Champions League football this season. And one from Manchester United's position has a drop because there's no Champions League football. But if the club's expectation, as it should be at Manchester United, is Champions League season on season on season, then the player obviously feels confident that over time, if the project goes according to plan, they're always going to get that bump by about 20%. And this is why wage is far more complicated than just saying who offered him more money in the last 48 hours.
Christian asked whether it's a possibility to sign Donnarumma. I think that's what that super chat's also been answered on the show. Who answered that one? Hi, Terry, Ben and Terry. Scotty is nominated for a Ballon d'Or. What do you think about the harsh words from the United supporters during the last 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, sometimes a player needs to move away and really find their form. We even saw a little cameo of that when Marcus Rashford went to Aston Villa and looked very comfortable under Unai Emery. And I'm sure that you'll see a spike in form playing for a great team like Barcelona as well. I think when a player leaves a club, if they succeed, it's always naturally seen through the prism of a fan base as a failure on the club's part to keep them. But occasionally you just get a situation where it's the different manager, the different climate, the different dressing room, the different system. And Scott McTominay just works away from Manchester United. And at Manchester United, by the way, I think he was an outstanding player too. So we're not looking at a scenario like with Marcus Rashford, where McTominay was that unhappy at Manchester United. But I can understand the logic of moving him along, despite the fact he's now a Ballon d'Or nominee. Because if you look at his position, a player that likes to be central, burst into the box, be an engine, sometimes drop deeper and be more a metronome, sometimes arrive in the box very late. In that area now, you've got loads of different players. It could be Kobbie Mainoo getting pushed in game management into a more advanced position. Bruno Fernandes, who might end up a little bit deeper because of Cunha and Mbeumo. Both of them are playing in that position too. So even though at the time, Manchester United didn't know who the players were, recruitment experts under old ownership, under new ownership, they're planning 4 or 5 windows ahead. This is what makes Liverpool so great. We learn about it now because we're basically slow as journalists. But actually, these recruitment experts know exactly what their plan is usually, unless there's twists and turns and a string of failures, well in advance. So I think Manchester United realised they were going to address this type of Scott McTominay profile or position, even though he's quite a versatile player. And in the end, if you look at Manchester United's lineup now, some fans would argue if you parachuted Scott McTominay in, he'd get in the starting lineup. But I would wager 50% of fans watching, if they gave their starting Man United 11, and as a bonus, we said McTominay's still a Man United player, would he make your starting 11 on paper, based on potential, based on profile? Or would actually some of these other new signings and Bruno Fernandes and so on be in this Ruben Amorim system? So that's probably more a question for fans to debate. But I'm delighted to see Scott McTominay succeed and thrive. And I hope he's very highly ranked when those Ballon d'Or rankings come out.
Yeah, I'll just add to this very quickly. Quite a large amount of the criticism that he was getting was warranted. He had a lot of bad games. I also don't think for many years we played him in the right position. And that's why I felt that when Ineos came in and we were looking to move forward, I wanted the manager changed. It was always forget the trophies, forget the bad runs, forget the things he said, forget the system. Just sometimes in life, when you're under new management, the easiest thing to do, and football's a sport where it's so much easier than a general day-to-day job, is just clear the decks and remove. And I said at the time, I felt that 90% of that squad that Ineos inherited, management, I said, I feel just all needs to go. The only thing takes time to clear out and replace is the squad, but the management and the coaching. And I just think Scott was part of, he was one of the poster boys of all the failure, not because it was his fault, but there's just that association. And sometimes it's easier to just start again. And if United could, if it was feasible for United just to go and sell most of their squad and buy a whole brand new one in the space of one summer, they might have even opted for something similar to that. Although I don't think you get the cohesion and the gelling together. But if it was feasible, they'd probably want to do that. So look, a lot of the criticism was warranted. Some of the abuse wasn't. But listen, we're all happy for him. He's a United Academy player. Well done, that man. VK here says it shows we do have funds and want to address key areas and show potential suitors. United will do fair market price and won't be lowballed too. Yeah, I think it does that. I think, look, essentially when it comes down to what we're doing as a club right now, we've put in, we've spent money this summer, but we've been prudent. We've been much better negotiators. Our strategy with the Sesko deal, I love that we won't put our bid in until the player commits to us, and we did that. And these things will just build you, for me, more credibility in the transfer market and make it actually easier now or in the long term to sign players like Baleba. And we don't want to be these laughing stocks. Remember, we were the club that sent delegates to the wrong place to meet people in Spain a few years ago, and we did some mad things that just damaged our club. VK, we really did. This here from J-Law, I don't get it, but he says Siri play Outstanding by the Gap Band. I don't know either of those things. This here says, what actually takes so long when clubs are trying to agree transfer fees? Is it a matter of formal meetings, or could it even be a casual lunch?
Yeah, I mean, you can have verbal talks, informal talks. You've got to formalize it. The lawyers have got to look at it, and you've got to agree the structure. So once you've got like a ballpark fee or terms in place with the player, sometimes there's games, sometimes the goalposts move. That was definitely the case with Mbumo. And you've then got to think about add-ons and payment terms. Add-ons can be easy, medium, or hard. They can be triggered after 5 appearances, or if a player wins the Ballon d'Or. So the total number doesn't mean that much. You could say, we want Benjamin Sesko, we're going to give you €1 million and €1 billion in add-ons, but the billion in add-ons only come if the player scores 1 billion goals. And you think, oh, it's a billion offer, but it's not a billion offer. It's actually a 1,000,000,001 offer, but you know what I mean. So it has to be, how attainable are these add-ons? And you have dispute. You might pitch 20 games. The club might say 10. You might say 10 goals. The club might say no. Alternatively, one thing people don't understand about add-ons is the fact, and I think that this is really crucial and important to all of this, the add-ons are not lump sum. So if you've got 5 million in add-ons, it might be every X games or goals equals a total amount. So you might have 5 million in add-ons, but they're not triggered in a lump sum. It might be 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million divided by 5 for every 5 goals that you score. So naturally, there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of countering. But specifically with the Benjamin Sesko deal, my understanding, as I've said many, many times, is that this agreement in principle is imminent. And when I mean imminent, I mean in a matter of minutes or hours. I think last night they pretty much had it. I think by today, the agreement in principle will be done. So we're just waiting for that sort of official confirmation.
Sorry. Just as you said that, we've just had a tweet from David Ornstein that the agreement's been struck. It's just happened just now. You were right.
Well, there you go.
Right. He done it. Ben did it live, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, I'm not in a position to call up Leipzig to confirm, but what I would say is Manchester United sources had told me last night that there was a whole lot of progress. I ran yesterday that the agreement in principle was very, very close. So it's really no surprise that the deal has been agreed, if that's what David Ornstein has just broke. And again, I think when you look at the total valuation, you'll basically find that it's in and around that 85 million euros mark. I think Manchester United, like I said earlier, and I haven't seen the reports or the tweet or anything like that that may have been broken, but my understanding is that they will have had to improve the 75 million number slightly, and the overall package will still be somewhere around the 85 million mark. But I'll try and give you more, whether after this show or alternatively on this show, depending on who messages me on my phone. But yeah, that agreement in principle, like I broke yesterday, was very, very close. There was progress late last night. So no surprise that now Benjamin Sesko is to be a Manchester United player.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. The Here We Go has just dropped from Fabrizio Romano as well. So listen, we've seen the Ornstein bomb. Okay, we've had the Here We Go, but what we got live, did you hear it? seconds before Mr. Ornstein, we got a live Jacobs cracker. And as that super chat earlier said, there's no crumbs, there's just Jacobs.
This is very true. You're going to have to let me go, though, off this show, unfortunately, pretty sharpish now, because as ever with journalism, we make the calls ourselves, we speak to both clubs, we put our story together. So you might have to leave me now to run away and stand up with information on this. And then obviously I'll be back to bring you more on the story.
Okay, listen, I'm going to do the last few super chats before the end of the show. Ben, always a pleasure to sit and speak football with you, mate. And we'll talk again soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks as ever. Ben. And I'll see you on Friday for the Done Deal show.
Lovely. Yes, tomorrow morning on the Football Terrace, 10:45. Be there, people. Ben, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. There's a few more super chats. I didn't want to miss them. I knew that Ben had to shoot off, but it says that if we don't get Baleba this summer, will there be less chance next summer? That Babyface Assassin, that was addressed by Ben, and he said that if you do the groundwork now, if you get the deal in order now, you can put yourself into a much more comfortable position going into next season. So going into next summer, because you've done the groundwork, the player is interested, as an example. Also, it's about maybe maintaining the right types of relationships maintain the right types of relationships with Brighton as well. When you want Donnarumma and the league gives you lemons. Sorry, that's actually a cool super chat. I like that, my friend. Do we have a Ballon d'Or clause for McTominay? Probably not. We've got to do it with every player now that leaves. We've got to do it with every single player that leaves. Let me just send a quick message here. One sec. Just messaging one quick person. But yeah, that's news in. That's amazing. I'm really happy that it's over the line now. Ben Bomber Shampers. We'll just stay live for now. So 40 million is too much for a world-class proven goalkeeper, is what Lewis says. Look, I think you've got to look at the price of goalkeepers. If you look generally at the price of goalkeepers, it's one of them things that most don't go for that amount of money, even the best. There's a handful of outliers that have been much higher, but it's one of them things where, how do I say this in the right way? There's a handful of outliers. So I was reading a message whilst trying to talk to you. There's a handful of outliers that have been 50, 60, 70 millions. But you actually look at most of the best goalkeepers in the world that have been sold, the price has been a lot lower. So I do think there's that element there that we need to be mindful of. We have to be mindful of that if we're being absolutely honest. When Mark's away, Sesko comes to play. Listen, do you know what's crazy? Every single here we go deal announcement or like big major breaking news on transfers this summer, I've been hosting. Listen, Goldie, you watching? Are you listening? Maybe I should just take over. Because every time I'm on, something big breaks for Manchester United. Let's have that right. Maybe I'm a little bit of a good luck charm. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe. But yeah, listen, it's crazy. Is Goldbridge in the chat? Is he in the chat? Maybe the lucky charm. maybe. Terry Bridge. I don't know about that. But we got the here we go. I'm well happy with the here we go. I like this player, man. I like this a lot. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. Do you think this is Bruno's last season? It could be. Sweet. So yeah, listen, this what's going to happen is Mark is going to be going live momentarily on the United Stand. Okay, so this will redirect you to Mark's a brand new stream that's going to come up soon. As soon as that's ready, we'll end and we'll send you across to it. So it's one of them things. So Mark's going to be live with you in a few moments' time. I'll be live on the football terrace afterwards. I'm sure we'll be able to see each other and do that as well. But we're buzzing. I'm just excited. I'm trying to calm myself down through the excitement. Look at some more of your comments here. Get Goldbridge out. No, listen, man. Where would you be with that Goldbridge? This community wouldn't exist. Fair is fair. Terry seems to always be live when we get the here we go. We do. All right, there we go. So yeah, it's one of them. I do. I'm just definitely a good luck charm. Terry's United stand. Oh, no, don't say that. That sounds horrible. That sounds horrible. It really, really does. BJ's bomber. No, you can't do that. That's a pause moment. VK says Terry's a good luck charm. I think I am a good luck charm. I genuinely think I'm a good luck charm. I do. I do think I am. We didn't miss it. By the way, thank you, Juju, for becoming a brand new member of the Football Terrace. You legend. I see you, Lou. I see you there. Hope you're well, Lou. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're well. Hope you're good and well, Lou. Nina Patage. Is it Patage? Patage says, we love Terry. Here we go. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I've felt the love recently. Like, obviously, me and Mark are working very closely together. We're trying to build these communities out. And so many of you come over to my shows on my channel. So many of you tune into my shows here, which is humbling. So, yeah, I love you guys as well. Shampers Terry is what Adorn says here. Big up yourself. Let's have a look here. What happens to Newcastle if we go for Isak now? Yeah. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Rasmus sacked. Here we go. All right, come on. That's a bit harsh. Rem here with the super chat says, stepped out of the home again, I guess. Oh, Goldie stepped out of the home again. Yeah, I think so. He just messaged me now, actually. He's just messaged me now and said, tell everyone I'm coming. I'll be there in a minute. He just messaged me now. So, yeah, look, he's on his way. Big up Terry and W for Ben. That is from Scott. Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. Scott, he did. Ben's had such a good summer. And the fact that he literally sat there and was saying, any minute now, this deal is going to go through. And then a minute later, it happens. Listen, that is the bomber. That is the official bomber, came from Ben live on the air. He got that information whilst we were live. That was amazing. Love it. Love it, my old chestnut. The flight tracker man dropped the bomber. Matt, you're right. You're right. Listen, he's on that flight at 4 p.m. because if the agreement in principle is in place, it says, and he's got permission to fly. He's on that flight. Where is it? If you're there, where are our producers at? Where are our producers at? Right. Greg, my old chestnut. Can you please put up Adrian C's super chat again? It was the first one. Please put up Adrian G's super chat. Very, very important. Very, very important. Because Adrian C, you need your flowers. You're right. He's going to be on that flight, isn't he? It literally says here, the on-scene bomb says, been given permission to fly and do a medical before completing his move. Come on. Yes, Adrian, big up yourself. Let's all track the plane. I don't have a plane tracking app. I'm going to get one now. I'll shoot you, just get it on the App Store, right? Let's do it now. Let me shut down OF. Hey, joke. Where's my App Store? App Store. I mean, the app's going in now. Let's find a plane tracker. Let's find a plane tracker. Plane tracker. I'm going to get... Oh, no. I do have one. Why did I have a plane tracker on my phone? I'm downloading it now. It's downloading. Let's get the plane tracker downloaded live on the air. Let's go. There we go. I've gone with Plane Finder. Will that do it? It's got 5-star rating. Let's get it done. Let's get it motoring, my people. We're out here doing up Arsenal. You know. Right, listen, people. I think it's done. Yeah, Mark to be going live very, very soon. So bear with us until that point. There we land. Here we go. Let's get it. Not standing for any more Ben bashing after this. No, Lou, I don't either. I've always gotten well with Ben. He's always been a very good journalist. Although a couple of years ago, he was on my channel and he was like, no, I don't see Man United getting Christian Eriksen. I just don't see how it's possible, blah, 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 blah. And then bang, it happened. So he's had a few, but he's picked up his pace on United since then. Shout out to Adrian. Yeah, we got a shout out, Adrian, man. Killed it with that super chat. And it's the timing's right. He's literally going to go and get on that plane now and come. And he's going to be around tomorrow for the grand opening of the new Carrington, isn't he? Oh, wow. Yes. And the game against Fiorentina is going to be there for it. Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend, people. It's going to be a good weekend for Manchester United. It truly, truly is. It's going to be a massive weekend. Sky Scanner. Let me see. Is my app downloaded now? Here we go. All right, continue. I don't want to get notifications. I'll start a 7-day free trial. No, because do you know what? I'm not doing that, right? I'm not starting a 7-day free trial. Do you know? Oh no, that's premium. I don't need to do that. Right. So let's find the plane, right? So it's I-Top-X. Oh my God, look. It's actually there in Germany. You're the man, bruv. Look, let's zoom in. There it is right now. Hey, look. Now it's on its way. It's flying. It's actually flying now. It's flying. It's moving. It's going to pick up Sesko. It's going to pick up Sesko. Shampers. Get the shampers out. Listen, this is going to redirect you now to Mark's streams, to go and support him. Of course, you're going to support him. He's the leader of this channel. So go and support him now. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.